Hi, I'm Crystal,
And I'm Tara.
and you're listening to the Rom-Com Detectives. Welcome to Rom-Com Detectives Episode 7, Smoking Evidence, the second episode of our Lucifer unit. Today, Tara and I will be talking about the second episode of Lucifer Season 1, called Lucifer Stay, Good Devil. This episode originally aired on February 1st, 2016. Okay, we're going to start with our case briefing. The victim here was someone named Robbie Russell Jr. I don't know if they mentioned how old he was, but he seemed young. Like, was he a teenager
Yeah,
or?
I think he's supposed to mirror Chloe, like Chloe's age because Chloe was 19 when she was in Hot Tub High School. And I think he's supposed to be kind of a mirror character to where she was at in her life at that point when she was being chased by paparazzi, etc.
Yeah. But yeah, so he got run off the road, and the motive was paparazzi wanting to be first, right? So,
Got to get the photo.
notable guest stars. It's funny that so Jeremy Davies was in this, and it's funny because I'm doing a Lost rewatch, and he was on Lost. He was like a pretty significant character from a certain season on. He played Daniel Faraday, so it's funny to be watching him on one show, and then I watch him again in this one.
Who did he play? Was he the?
He was Nick Hoffmeister.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah. And then there was Robert. I don't know how to pronounce his name because it's got like a apostrophe in it. I'm guessing it's Richard.
Sure.
But he's from a show called One on One. Okay, we're going to get into the episode breakdown. It starts off with Lucifer approaching a street preacher who comes back later.
hmm
And he actually shows him his face after a confrontation with him because he starts off kind of friendly with him, right? He's being a little
We're getting to see sort of like smart ass Lucifer. Like
yeah.
we'll see him frequently, but I think he doesn't really have an issue with the guy until he finds out just how completely he's
Fake he
lying.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so this is where they kind of like start to bring in Lucifer's aversion to lying, because he says he only really gets angry when he talks about what he hates more than anything is a liar, and then he shows him his face, and the guy freaks out and runs off down the street.
I think it also, because you have the line here that Lucifer says specifically, like someone who doesn't believe in what they say,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is important because it basically gives us the definition of liar according to Lucifer. And I also think it's part of the reason why he can kind of, when Lucifer's lying to himself, he can say things that might not be true, but he believes them to be true.
Yeah.
And that sort of comes back again and again throughout the whole series, is that people can lie to themselves so completely that they believe it, and then it doesn't kind of trigger that lying radar.
Okay, and then he goes to his appointment with Linda, and he straight up tells her that he's the devil, and of course she doesn't believe him, and this becomes a recurring thing too, where he'll just tell people all the time. I mean, he told Chloe last time that he's the devil, and like no one ever believes him, which I thought when I was first watching the show was really amusing, because I was like, he's not even trying to hide it, but it's like he can just hide in plain sight because no one believes him. Everybody thinks because he's in LA that he's just an actor and he's kind of like a weirdo kind of thing. That's his like gig or whatever.
Yeah, and I mean, he does it again in this episode. Like, I think he basically states that he's the devil to at least 3 or 4 different people, because he says it first with the preacher at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then he says it to Linda. Then later he says it to Chloe at least twice. And I think there's a couple other ones too. Like,
yeah,
I
think he tells Nick too, right?
Yeah, I think so. So it's, he's very upfront about it, but he also, I think, knows that he can say whatever he wants and people aren't going to believe that because it's too far outside their experience.
And you can tell that he finds that amusing, right? That he can just tell people the truth all the time and nobody picks up on it.
Yeah, so at this appointment with Linda, when he basically tells her straight up, like, "Well, I'm the devil," she doesn't believe him, and they discuss while obviously like things are about to turn flirty, but they discuss the fact that last time they met, he was bothered by feelings of humanity, and she tells him too that she's willing to go along with his metaphor because that's kind of key for his relationship with
Yeah.
Linda, at least when they start their relationship, before she begins to take him at his word, is that this is a complicated like story that he's told himself to make
Hmm.
sense of his trauma, whatever it is. And so he says that he's healed because that is how therapy works. You go one time and
And you're
then you're
better.
good. You're good. That's it. It's this will happen many times
Yes,
over
yes.
the series because bless him,
He thinks I'm good.
I'm fine. Usually when he thinks he's fine is when he's like at his most not fine. And she reveals, her suspicion that he's afraid someone is changing him. And that's also going to be a bit of a recurring theme in this particular episode.
But it's funny because he seems to realize that, and yet at the same time, it excites him, right?
Yeah. Well, it's new. I mean, I think, and I genuinely think one of the kind of cool things about the way they set Lucifer up as a character in this is, he's seen it all before and he's
Yeah.
done it all before.
He's
And
bored.
then, yeah, like even coming to LA and starting his club and doing this, it's like, okay. But then Chloe and her lack of reaction to him is something so new and so interesting that the puzzle he wants to work out.
Okay, so since we talked about this last episode, Couch Watch. Her couch seems to be the same couch as the same one in the pilot. So I had thought maybe she purchased a new couch, especially so that she could have sex with Lucifer in her office, but it doesn't seem like it. I guess it was already a pull
Nope.
out couch.
It's again, I'm not sure that this is like American Medical Association approved. But yeah. I'll ask my therapist whether she has a pull-out couch in her office. I
I
suspect the answer will
mean,
be no, but
maybe we can just kind of say that she works late hours taking notes on her appointments and things like that. And sometimes she doesn't want to drive home in LA traffic, so she'll just pull out that couch and and
yeah,
sleep over.
she works with stars who might have very weird schedules, so who knows. As the seasons go on, we see that she really does work very weird hours. So it's just,
Yeah.
she needs a place to have a good nap.
She does have a lot of night sessions, seems like.
Yes, she's always there for you, Linda.
She's not a 9 to 5er.
No,
So we'll give her a pass for now on the couch. Give her the benefit of doubt, even though she doesn't deserve it, clearly.
she'll get there.
Next, we go to Lux, and Chloe is like being the world's worst stalker. she's, she's,
Clearly has not done a long enough rotation on undercover work.
yeah.
Also beginning to understand why the acting career didn't work out for her.
She's trying to take pictures of Lucifer from a booth that she's sitting in, and it's like she's not really doing a good job of hiding it. And so Maze brings her a drink, and Lucifer's playing the piano, and she approaches him, and she's telling him that he doesn't seem to have existed 5 years ago. So that gives us a bit of a timeline on when he came to Los Angeles and how long he's been here. But then she asked him straight up, like, how did you survive being shot 6 times? And then what did you think about the scene when she's like pretending to come on to him and she's touching him and she's checking for a bulletproof vest? Because I was just like, I mean, I get that she was checking to see whether it was possible for him to be wearing one the last time, but it seemed
Yeah,
like kind of a, I don't know. I don't know if that would have actually given her an answer to what she was wondering about.
gives us an answer to what we're wondering about, which is how tight is that shirt under there? Wait, what? So yeah, I know. I mean, I think in that case, like it's definitely played for like
Yeah,
the
the
giggle.
audience.
And
Yeah.
also just to see Lucifer flustered, which is always great because he's into it for a second. And he's also still really trying to wrap his brain around the fact that his mojo doesn't have an effect on her. And so I think every time he almost thinks that it is and she kind of pulls the rug out from under him, he
Yeah.
gets flustered. And I just wanted to mention too, because these early seasons, his hair is so good. Like, he's got
Yeah.
his, like, wavy, curly hair.
Yeah.
Peak Lucifer.
Within the fandom, there's like people talk about how there's lanky Lucifer and there's beefy Lucifer,
Yeah.
and it's hard to choose because lanky Lucifer just has a lot going for him.
Personally, I am a lanky Lucifer fan. I mean, I'm not just personal taste. Muscles are fine, but I do like the tall, lean,
Yeah,
curly
yeah,
hair guy liner. He really works it in these early things. And I kind of liked it that he wasn't like totally sculpted crazy. Like, we do see him, well, shortly we see him kind of like half dressed, and he just
yeah.
looks good, like a normal good.
Well, it's not just that, like, his mannerisms were kinda different in
Hmm.
seasons 1 and 2, I feel like, when he started beefing up, he started dressing a little more his couture was just elevated, right? Whereas in, like, the first season
It's also
and the
because the
2nd
show's
season.
budget went up.
Yeah. But, yeah, in, like, seasons 1 and 2, like, he dressed a lot more casually, he wore, like, dress shirts and jackets, and he wore the black a lot, black with white shirt kinda thing, and he seemed more carefree. I don't know, like carefree and jokey. He was still jokey and he loved puns, so like his personality was still there, but he seemed looser in the first season, I feel like.
Looser Lucifer. Straight from Crystal's mouth to your ears. Yeah, I mean, I get that. And although I will say that I noticed that in the very first scene when he's talking to the preacher, he's wearing the like monochrome all black
Yeah.
with the waistcoat, like the vest underneath, and I was like, ooh, vest watch. I do like the vest, but unbuttoned top and all in black, and it's just a good look.
Okay, so Chloe gets a call and that affects her and that catches his interest and that leads him to want to follow what happens next. She got a call from Dan, I guess, about what happened with the case. And she goes down to the scene and she finds that so her connection, the reason Dan calls her is because she knows the guy who's been arrested for running the kid off the road, Nick Hoffmeister. He tells her because she still has her arm in a cast, and he tells her that she can't be on the case while she's on medical leave. And I love this part is when he says, "Why did you have to bring him?" And I love the way that she turns around and glares like, "What?"
Yeah, he just pops up when you least expect it. Especially here, like in these early episodes where he isn't affiliated with the department at all. Like,
Yeah,
he's just
yeah.
like
It's not official yet. He's still just tagging along and
this
stalking her.
random guy just shows up.
But yeah, so this is actually where Lucifer calls Dan Detective Douche for the very first time.
And Dan, I feel like there's a slight, like, he tones down a little bit from where he was at in the pilot. Like, in the
Mhm.
pilot he was a little harsher, I think, with Chloe, with like, just wrap it up, just do the blah, blah, kind of like
Yeah.
he was a little more, whereas in this you get more of a sense that, like, yeah, they were married. They don't hate each other
Yeah.
even though
Yeah.
they're not together anymore.
Yeah, he seems to be looking more out for her in
Yeah.
this, right?
I mean, she did get shot, and she is the mother of his child, so I'm sure that had
Yeah.
an effect on things.
Dan looked really good in this episode too.
Yeah, he did.
I think I prefer lanky Dan over beefy Dan too.
Lanky. I just like lanky.
He's not even lanky. I just liked him how he looked in season 1. He just looked
Hmm.
very nicely proportioned.
Everybody got the same trainer partway through and
Yeah,
started,
yeah.
who did a very good job beefing people up, and no shade. Just,
Yeah.
just I like a
Crazy.
little softness over top of that muscle. Makes me happy.
But yeah, so Lucifer seems to have adjusted his strategy since he can't use his power on on Chloe. He seems to switch to using words and kind of picking at what he senses she actually wants. So he's using like powers of perception instead with her, and he's like trying to convince her to go talk to Nick because he sees that she really wants to go talk to him. So he starts
I mean,
whispering in
Crystal,
her ear.
he is seeing a therapist now, and he's healed. So he
Yes.
is
Yes.
basically a therapist at this point. He knows. He knows it all.
Oh boy.
Somewhere Linda just felt a shudder run up her spine, like, oh my God, what? what's happening out there.
But yeah, so Lucifer does use his power on Nick, and they actually introduce the sound effect this time. But Lucifer will say eventually that there are some people who are more difficult for him to impart this power on than others. And it seems like Nick is pretty good. He's one of the more difficult ones, right? Because he seems to be able to resist him based on what he wants to.
Kind of unexpectedly, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah. But what Lucifer finds interesting about this is that despite what he can sense about how she feels about Nick, she's not ready to just jump on his confession and assume that he's the actual killer. So,
Yeah, in fact, she's pretty sure that he's covering for somebody else and she doesn't want to punish him. Here too, this is kind of like the introduction of the difference in how Lucifer perceives justice versus
mhm.
how, like the police see justice, which is, there are rules to follow and there
Yeah,
are,
yeah.
you have to have evidence, you have to do all the things and check all the boxes, whereas Lucifer's like, well, you're guilty, so let's
let's get started on your punishment.
yeah, let's start the hell loop now. Because that kind of dichotomy comes up. And at least for me, like I found those questions kind of really interesting to think about because if you are the final arbiter basically on what's bad and what's good
Mhm.
and what deserves punishment and what doesn't, you've been doing it like for eternity. It must seem very annoying to have to like
Yeah. To have all these rules to follow all of
put
a
a pin
sudden.
in it until you can actually find a piece of evidence. Like, what a waste of time. Speaking of evidence,
Yeah, so so this episode is actually the first use of the Lucifer title screen, which I love. It was one of my favorite parts about watching the show. I'm like a fan of intros in general, but Lucifer's one is really quick and I think it's like less than 10 seconds, but
yeah,
I had to
it,
watch this music to get into the right mindset to watch an
exactly. And
episode.
then you had to make a blanket of
Yes.
the title screen because of course you did.
Yeah. Okay. So next, Chloe tells Dan that. I mean, we just talked about this. So they're talking about how Nick is probably covering for someone else, but while they're talking about it,
Lucifer's doing
Dan.
drugs at the scene as he will many times again
I
of
I
different
love
varieties.
I love Dan's line here. He says, "Take your weird club owner sidekick with you before I arrest him."
And she's like, "For what?" And then looks over and he's just like smoking a joint,
I
leaning
I
against
love
the car.
I love every instance of this, like him driving Chloe crazy. I mean, I
Yes.
feel bad. I'm sorry, Chloe, but it's amusing for her to always be turning around like, what? What is he doing now?
Yeah. And I think that the other thing that sort of saves it from being, because it genuinely is played for amusement rather than
hmm
seriousness most of the time. And so, like, to Lucifer, he's like, whatever, I'm like literally immortal. And I,
And I'm the devil. I'm
I'm the
supposed to be
devil. Like,
bad.
it's just a gateway drug. God. It's such a different kind of, to him it's like such a non-issue that this he's more offended by the fact that she then destroys the joint than the fact that he's not supposed to be doing that
It's
out.
not puff puff stomp angrily.
Ah, it's so funny. I do
I
love all of those little.
I know the lines here were really good. I liked that because this is where they kind of start to establish that he loves puns, right?
Oh,
He
he
like
does.
like he loves to make plays on words.
As someone
Um,
who also loves that, i I feel you,
me
man.
too. Me too.
Yeah, she's like, so our only evidence is in your lungs. And he's like, oh, you wanted to say up in smoke. And in my mind, I was thinking, yeah, I totally wanted to say up in smoke.
Okay, then the scene moves to his penthouse, and this is our first look at it. And I don't think it really changes much at all. Maybe like the artwork leading to his
some
bedroom. Is
some
that a window? Is that a stained glass window?
I think that it doesn't change, but there is like some furniture changes over
Mm-hmm.
the years. And but I mean, I think like the penthouse was a set they built.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it wasn't like a actual, so they could make it look like whatever. And then I think they just kept it there, but there were changes in the way things were set up, kind of minor ones.
Yeah, so Lucifer wakes up and he leaves a man and a woman in bed, and Amenadiel arrives and he continues the whole thing about how he's disappointed in him. And we had talked about how there was a deleted scene between Maze and Amenadiel in the pilot episode. And in this one, they continue to be kind of on the same page where they're both like disappointed that he's not really being devilish anymore and he's changing, and Amenadiel really doesn't like that he saves Chloe and he like treats him with scorn, which is, I don't know, it's sad. I mean, because once you learn more about Lucifer's history, it's like he doesn't really want to be in this role, right? And yet they are basically forcing him into it. I mean,
Well, it's
they
such
expect
a
this of him.
exactly like this is so I'm just gonna go like I've thought too much about this meta for 1 second, which is so the thing with the way that angels are established in this show, right? Like, is that basically they're God's children, sure. And that, but they've all been created, each one has been created for a purpose, which is reflected in their names because basically in angelic naming, the El or L means of God. So it's like something of God. And that thing is their like job or their role. And we'll learn later what Lucifer's angel name was. And it's kind of like setting him up from the beginning to be kind of like the not good guy. And so
The bad guy, the bad
like
angel.
at what point it's like if your dad names you like Evil McEvilson, like what are you gonna do? You're like, great, thanks dad. Like but he like there is this kind of, I think that the really interesting sort of theological / philosophical question is basically about free will and about choice. The angels, especially in the beginning, like when we see Amenadiel and later when we see other angels before they've had a chance to sort of get the humanity side of things, they're like, this is what we do. Like, we have a job, we do the job.
This is my lane.
Yeah, like they never leave their lane. Whereas I think from the very beginning, Lucifer was like, hey, I have a question. And it's this doesn't seem awesome. So like, I'm just wondering why. And those are the things that I think led to, his rebellion, which is like his rebellion was being the kid who asks questions instead of the kid who just does what dad tells him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's interesting to me in a very kind of like better to reign in hell than serve in heaven way. Thank you, Paradise Lost. But yeah, I think that kind of interesting, thoughtful stuff was what was getting me right, like hooked me right from the beginning. I was like, ooh, we're not just going with like the plain good evil Amenadiel being like,
hey, you're the devil, and he's resisting, right? He's just like,
yeah.
no, I don't want to be the devil.
And Amenadiel being like, oh my God, you saved a human. How could you? And you're like, wait a second, wait, who is the bad guy? Like, it's very interesting. And like, obviously that will play into Amenadiel's character arc, especially this season. And I think I just loved the way that they set so many things up in this episode that are going to have, like, they're part of a really long game storytelling wise.
Especially since Amenadiel is the only one who we've seen with wings at this point. So he is like, in people's minds, I think, the angel, right?
Yeah,
he's
absolutely.
The genuine deal because he's got the wings, right? But whereas with Lucifer...
We also get the first glimpse very quickly at the scars on Lucifer's back in this episode. More on that.
No, I think that's, is it?
Nope, it is when he gets out of the bed and he puts on his silk robe. And I was like, ooh, because it's not a plot point yet. It will be in episode 4.
I'm gonna have to go back and look at that. I missed that.
Tara really likes episode 4. Okay, we're gonna. That was the episode that reached out and like grabbed me, and I was like, oh well, I guess I'm just in this now. But yeah, I was like, oh yeah, it's just a little glimpse, no mention made, and we don't have context for it.
Split seconds thing.
Yeah.
I went back to go look, and yeah, oh my God, it's like a blink and you miss it thing.
Exactly. Wow. But man, he had to sit in that makeup chair for God knows how long to get that done. So
just for like half a second of footage. Oh my God.
Acting. But yeah, I think there's a lot of really good foreshadowing and setup stuff happening that ends up having good payoff later.
Okay, so the next scene is with Chloe, and this is one of my favorite parts of the episode because she's looking at the gruesome photos of that the paparazzi posted on like their website, and Trixie catches her and she's asking if she looks at a naughty site. She
She
goes into
actually says, "Are you looking at a no-no site?"
her
Which is even cuter.
yeah, yeah. But then the doorbell rings, and oh my god, it's Lucifer. Does he mention how he tracked down her address?
No,
He
nope.
must have just gone to the police station, like got it out of someone.
Yep.
Maybe with the desk sergeant that had her like shirt unbuttoned or whatever. But yeah, so Trixie runs out of her room and she hug attacks him. Oh my god, it was so
And
cute.
he's like, ugh.
But yeah, so my favorite part of the episode, and I'll come back to this later, but basically when he picks up her doll and he throws it across the room, it's just too advanced for her.
And she's just like, "You're funny." And I think this is so, I mean, yeah, I feel like we'll be coming back to this in our final recap, but yeah, she's such a great character, and the way that every interaction she has with Lucifer just makes my heart happy
Too
because he's like,
adorable.
ugh.
But she just loves him unconditionally, right?
Yeah. You know, my total pet theory too is that the reason Lucifer is so uncomfortable with children is that children don't go to hell.
Hmm.
That's part of it, because he's seen all the like humanity worst of reels forever, but I don't think there's a lot of kids there.
And since he spends so much time at Lux, there aren't any children there
Definitely
either.
not a lot of kids there.
But then Chloe warns him, bad idea. Bad idea, Chloe. She warns him not to talk about Hot Tub High School in front of Trixie. And then that's when he learns that her mom is like a cheesy sci fi star called Penelope Decker, who he recognizes by name. And he picks up that something happened in her past, and that's why she's bothered by Nick Hoffmeister. So that puts him, he's like a bloodhound, right? He's like, oh, this is the source. I have to go talk to him because he can't get
Yeah,
her.
and he totally assumes that it's Chloe being rebellious too. It's not like he's got this bone in his mouth
Yeah,
that's like,
he just wants to gossip, right? He thinks
yeah,
it's something
he's like, tell
salacious.
me the tea. So yeah,
Which actually isn't that bad of an assumption, because he thinks that it has to do with Hot Tub High School and she was topless in that, so he must think that it's something to do with that, right? So
exactly. And it's Lucifer, so boobies. There's
yeah.
also that moment in that scene where he makes the sound of like, he does the
Yeah.
little like burr, 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 and she's like, never do that again. And
But I
it's
love
hilarious.
I love it when she kicks him out and locks the door. He's just standing there like, oh, hello. He's probably never had people do that to him before, right? Especially not
No,
a woman. So,
no.
and in this one, Chloe mentions that Trixie is 8, but she was 7 in the pilot. So I don't know. Maybe she had her birthday or something. Or
I will tell you, as somebody who spent way too much time thinking about this, don't get too deep in the timeline because it doesn't make any sense.
yeah.
Like things get really muddled really fast. So kind of just got to play with that and be like, some small amount of time has passed, let's just say, because yeah, the dates and times of year and ages and everything
Well,
are
I mean,
not perfectly.
it takes a lot of time to move to Vancouver.
Yeah, it does. They walked the whole way.
They had that whole penthouse and
Yeah,
the club.
exactly.
Okay, so that confuses me though, because I mean, like I said in the first episode, the inside stuff of Lux was filmed at a theater or a nightclub in LA. So did they film the interior Lux stuff in
They
LA?
recreated it, I think. They
Ah,
rebuilt it on a soundstage.
huh. Okay, so next it goes to Lucifer going straight to the police station because he wants to go get the scoop from Nick. He charms the lady at the front desk, who is, like I said, she has her like top buttons on, but she doesn't look dressed like a typical police officer.
I always
He,
think, I'm like, I don't think that's a standard
yeah,
uniform
yeah,
with the
no.
LAPD.
But so he gets in to talk to him, and he reveals that 2 weeks after Hot Tub High School, her father died, and he made sure to be there at the funeral. And she punched the camera and cracked the lens in half, and that he made so much money in that photo, but that he felt really bad afterwards. But he still made a lot of money, and this is kind of a downer for Lucifer because he was expecting something
He was expecting
juicy.
boobies. That's what he was expecting.
Yeah,
He was more.
yeah.
He wanted boob stories, and instead it's like dead father stories. He's not happy.
Meanwhile, Chloe goes to talk to the victim's father, Robbie Russell Sr., and the poor guy is blaming himself for his son's death, thinking that his fame is the reason his son was why he was being stalked. And I mean, that's true, but it's still not his fault that this is what happened. And especially since once we learn what the motive was later. But she tells him, she speaks from her heart and she tells him, I was in his position too, and I was followed around my whole life, and that it's not his fault. And I like that she was sympathetic with him in this part because it just, I don't know, it rang really true, and I like that. So
And it's a nice parallel to what we just learned.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
about what happened with her and why.
hmm
Yeah,
and also kind of Lucifer seeing her a different way because
yeah,
of it. Like
yeah.
all these little baby steps towards real understanding.
Yeah, because I mean, they show in the pilot that he has an idea, and like a lot of people have this idea about the LAPD, right? About corruption and like how they're not going to do what they're supposed to do, kind of thing.
Yeah,
But she kind of breaks that mold for him because she cares. She doesn't want to do like Dan represents, I guess, the typical LAPD kind of trope kind of thing where he just wants open and shut. He wants to just get on to the next one. He doesn't want to put the work in. But she seems
there's
to want to
maybe
put
some
the work in.
covering up of
At Palmetto
less,
Street.
yep, less savory aspects.
And then they show Lucifer at Lux, and he looks pretty down, right? So, and Maze asks him what's wrong. He says that he's sad because of what he learned about this depressing story about Chloe, and that pisses off Maze even more. And oh
Yeah,
my god, I know that Maze is kind of a bitch in the first season, but I love that about her because she's a demon. I
yeah.
mean, yeah, I really liked that about her in the early season. So
It's and it's so interesting too to see the parallels between Maze, a demon, and Amenadiel, an angel, and yet
and the devil
most
too.
of the time they're on the same page in a way that, like, they may not have the same reasoning behind it, but they kind of want the same thing, and they're pulling Lucifer between their two,
Yeah, yeah.
ideas of who he should be. This is why people go to therapy.
But Maze provokes him to the point where he yells at her and his eyes turn red or fiery. That was interesting. And then Chloe shows up and she wants to know what he learned. She's like pissed at him for what he did, but she still wants to know what he learned, which is another recurring thing where Chloe's like, "I can't
I
believe you did
don't
that,
condone this,
but
but
what did you learn?" Oh, you're so annoying, but you're really useful.
yeah, and he is. Like,
And I think that's I think what makes these rom-com procedurals funny, right? Is like there's
exactly.
just aggravate, and that's how it is with Mentalist, that's how it is with Castle. The lady cop is always so aggravated at the methods that he uses, but hey, what was that you got out of him?
Yeah.
They drive them crazy, but they're actually useful. And I think that's the formula that a lot of these shows use for a lot of the time because it's amusing and yet they prove useful, so that's what sustains
Well, yeah,
the
and you're
show.
not, I mean, obviously this is when we're very aware that it's fiction. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
this would be very unprofessional in a real life situation. However, this is not, we presume what's actually happening at the LAPD.
The two of them figure out that Nick is probably protecting a protege just based on like how there's still photos being uploaded even though he's in custody. And so she figures out where the photos are being uploaded and they go down there. And I like this because they're really working together. They're
Yeah.
trying to spot the guy. And Lucifer spots him and they're like, "Oh yeah." And then the guy uses her who she is against her. He yells at all the other paps that, "Oh, there's Chloe Decker," and then he uses that to get away. But yeah, I like this scene because it's nice to see them going from adversarial to working together, and it's cute.
And also little touch of, Lucifer being protective, like, the way, because I think this is also, we get that little moment where he learns from Hoffmeyer or whatever, a few more kind of sadder parts of Chloe's
Hmm.
life. And all of a sudden, he's not just like needling her the entire time. And when these other paparazzi are in her face, he's like, this isn't appropriate, like, so there is that
Yeah,
kind of like,
and he uses his power on one of them too, right?
yes,
Kind of to get them off of her.
yes, to find out, basically, saying, is this really what you want? And the guy wants a Pulitzer for photography, and Lucifer's like, yeah, that's not going to happen. But, and I
And then
think,
he starts a fight too, right?
yeah,
So.
he does. He does. And that's good. I mean, I like that. It's sort of that little baby step towards them being a
Mhm.
team in a real way.
Yeah, you're right, because he's trying to protect her from what they were doing to her before. So
Yeah.
even though she's clearly used to it and she knows the deal, like, because I guess she kind of turns around and her temper's flaring, but she stops herself and she goes
Doesn't punch
after
a
the
camera.
guy. Yeah. Because when they show the photos that they took of her the next day, and the headline is like Chloe Decker is back, and they have like the old image of her at the funeral and the present image, but the present image of her is not that bad. Right? She's just standing there looking a little aggressive, but she's not like holding her fist back or anything
It
like
was a
that.
slow
So.
news day. Okay. It was.
But oh my god, did you get a look at the picture of her from the funeral? It didn't look like her. I mean, I know it's supposed to be a younger her, but I thought it looked more like a young Penelope.
Mm. I wonder if
Like,
maybe they used a picture, because sometimes they'll.
yeah, she looked like a young Rebecca De Mornay. So I don't know. At first when I saw her, I was like, "Oh, is that actually the mom instead?" But I think it was clearly supposed to be Chloe because she's got her fist out and she's
Yeah.
the one who punched the camera. So I don't know. I thought that was interesting. I thought.
Did Rebecca De Mornay ever punch a camera? Is that why they chose this? Although I suppose she might not even have been cast yet, because she doesn't show up.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Hmm.
When did she show up? Oh, we'll have to
Yeah.
look
We'll
at
get
that.
there.
Yeah.
It's the
When is
Mexican
that?
restaurant one. That's where she shows up, I think.
So this is where Dan gets some points with fans because he brings Chloe a file. He ran the license plate and he got the name of the guy, Josh Bryant, and he tells her, "Go figure out the case while I buy you some time," which I thought was really sweet of him.
Sweet, but also maybe
Devious.
foreshadowing that Dan doesn't always play by the rules.
Yeah. So that elevated him a little bit, because he was pretty firmly in douche territory in the pilot. But
He was. He really
yeah,
was.
but
And
like you
he'll be
said,
there again.
so I thought this was interesting because he gives her the lead, and she goes and finds the guy, but she's with Lucifer.
Yeah.
So did she go get him? Did she call him and say, "Hey, I got a name. Let's go find this guy." Right?
Yeah.
It,
I wonder if there was like a deleted something there.
yeah, it
Yeah,
kind of
you're right.
felt like something was missing here, right?
Yeah.
Because there's no scene like explaining why she has him with her, or the two of them are there to go
He's
talk to
just
him.
on speed dial now.
Hey, I need you to come lean on this guy with your power
I
that I don't believe.
mean, that I don't believe in, but I maybe do. I don't know.
She thinks he's a mentalist.
Yeah. Crossover.
But so while they're talking to him, he's playing the innocent guy and trying to like be like, "Oh, I'm such a fan of you, Chloe," which is so fake. But then he interrupts them and he wants to go take a photo, and he happens to get a photo of when a woman slaps a lady in the face. And so that leads them to think that maybe things are staged. So they go back to Lux and they look at his past photos, and they figure out that he's been causing things to happen so that he can be the first to be on the scene and sell these photos, which is I like this plot line. I don't always like the cases, but I like this one because it seemed pretty fitting. It was kind of believable to me, so I like that.
And it ties into the way the characters have been set up
Yeah,
too. So
it
it's
was it was nicely mixed in with Chloe's backstory too. I
yeah.
liked how they put this one in.
I
So
mean, I think that that's something about well, a lot of these shows, but especially in Lucifer, is like, it's not about the mystery. Like, you will probably
Yeah.
figure out who did the thing before the show tells you, but it's more like the cases are chosen and kind of developed in order to illuminate something about the
Mhm.
characters
Yeah.
and their lives, rather than like, oh my god, I didn't know who did the thing, because that you will know.
Yeah.
It's going to be
Especially
thematically tied.
especially if like especially if like 10 years later you're watching Lucifer, all the people who are like killers in the show will probably be famous 10 years from now
Yeah.
because that's usually how it goes. That's just why when I was watching The Mentalist, I usually knew who the killer was just because they're like famous now.
Yeah, it's definitely not. If I were watching it for that reason, I think it would be disappointing, but it's not about that. It's a
Yeah,
character show
yeah,
rather than a plot show, really.
yeah.
I so
It's about it's what the characters get out of the case
yes.
aside from the murder. Yeah. They discover things about themselves along the way during the
Mhm.
investigation.
All right, so then Chloe basically confronts Nick with her theory that Josh caused all the incidents so that he could be the first photographer and always get that perfect paparazzo shot, including the suicides and overdoses, which is pretty dark,
I
actually.
know, I
Like,
know.
that's
Eh.
it's
Especially since
gross.
they show the photos. I was like,
I know.
"Oh, ow."
So Nick says that he took Josh in when Josh was like 16. He's a runaway and was hoping to kind of stop him from making the same mistakes that he did. And in this case, he admits that he took the fall to give Josh another chance. And I think because Josh, manipulated him
Yeah.
to make it seem like the right thing to do. Then and I think he apologizes to
Yeah.
her
Yeah.
here too. Like, we had heard him tell Lucifer that he regretted what he did,
Yeah.
but he actually
Not her directly.
apologizes, yeah, to her, and she tells him that she forgives him. And then she gets a call from Dan, who says that Josh, who was in custody, is missing.
Yeah, because actually we didn't talk about this, but they showed after Chloe left Lux after she got mad at Lucifer for insinuating that they can go punish him right now. He tells Maze, "Oh, they're going to go deliver punishment." And she
Yeah.
gets all excited about that. So,
Yeah, we skipped that, sorry. And it's actually important because it really does highlight that difference between how Lucifer sees meting out punishment
justice.
and
Yeah.
justice, and how Chloe does. And it's kind of that teeter-totter back and forth of who he was and who he is turning into, and maybe even who he wants to be versus who he was made to be. So yeah, it's they decide that they're gonna, take matters into their own hands. And
And it's funny because she gets a call from Dan, and like I think they go put her in like a fire escape or something. They gotta keep her way out of the way so that Lucifer can slide right in and come get
yeah,
come come take Nick. But I love that like the desk sergeant says, "Oh, is that tall, handsome British fella?" And she's like, "Oh, I did it too, didn't I?" So it's
because
clear that like
she's like
they
she's an older lady or
yeah
something, and she's
yeah
like, so
she's replaced the younger, hotter lady clearly so that they think
yeah,
that she'll
they're
do
like,
better.
no, no, Lucifer. There's no age where you stop being affected by the
Yeah,
Luciferness
yeah.
of Lucifer.
There's no age limit. So here we get to see what Lucifer's idea of justice is. He takes Nick back to the crash site, and Maze kicks Joss out of her trunk, and he's tied up and gagged. He he calls her a crazy bitch, and she like smacks him right there. So it's like
Because
clearly
he
this
has a
is
death wish. Like,
yeah. What an idiot, right? But she puts guns in front of both of them, and Lucifer says that they're going to see who shoots who first. And Josh picks up his gun, he fires the gun, but it's empty, which I guess is not. It seemed to surprise Lucifer.
yeah, that was
And
Maze.
yeah, that was Maze's idea.
Maze is even more creatively evil than,
Diabolical.
yeah, diabolical. But I do like this as like a kind of, the thing I like about it, again, to go back to like the sort of philosophical question, is that Lucifer as a character he's really obsessed with choice, right? Like
hmm
free will and choice, and the idea that he didn't have a choice, and that's why he ended up the Lord of Hell. And so I really like that in this kind of punishment, it's not him punishing them like by beating them or shooting them or anything. He's making like the true punishment is that they have this choice, like who's going to shoot who. Are you going to shoot each other? You like, this is your like, pseudo father figure type and the rebellious son, no parallels. And then he leaves it to them, right? Like they could have both just put their guns down and walked away.
Yeah.
And I think he would have let that stand. But
yeah.
I mean, Maze might not have.
Yeah. I don't think she would have. She's all about the torment.
But it's I like it because it's like it still comes down to that he's not removing choice. He's influencing choice by like saying like, oh hey, he's gonna turn you in and he's gonna, like he's still trying to manipulate it a bit, but never removes their choice from them, because I think that's actually Lucifer's like big no right up there with lying.
But he does do something interesting here in that once he knows that Nick is going to shoot Josh, he kind of seems to want to take the consequence away from him, and I think that's like that has to do with like this whole theme of how Lucifer's changing, right? He doesn't want to let Nick suffer the consequences of what he actually chooses.
Yeah.
Because he puts his hands together and prays, so that Amenadiel shows up, and so that just gets the bullet to like slow down in midair so he can pluck it out of the air and he can change things. I love that he takes the time to kick Josh in the nuts.
I mean, he still deserves some punishment.
Yeah.
I think too, we should mention that Chloe shows up at this point too.
Yeah.
And Chloe is trying to talk them down from the shooting. And that's when Lucifer prays to, it's like he's had like a bit of a wake up call, like, oh, right, maybe this is why she wanted to go through all of the proper channels and do all of this stuff. Crap.
And also maybe he realizes that, if Nick shoots Joss, then I probably won't get to work with her again.
Exactly. So, and she's still very interesting to him.
Yeah. But so the thing that Lucifer does that freaks Chloe out is that he suddenly appears behind her, and she's just like, she can't get over that. She doesn't understand how he appeared behind her, because for her, no time passes. She just blinks and he's behind her instead. So, and that would freak me out too.
She also heard the shot, so she's expecting somebody to be bleeding, and nobody is bleeding.
And he's got the bullet in his hand. He shows it to her.
And she's trying so hard to like make this logical, even though there is no logic to it, because we know, like the audience knows, we saw what happened. It was an angel came down and stopped time, and Lucifer plucked the bullet out of the air. Like we know, but she of course is not ready to get, and they have such a great back and forth there where she's like, but how? And he's like, how I will, and like that, how it wars with her. Like she can't wrap her brain around the fact that he's telling the truth. And so she has to just kind of push it aside because it doesn't make sense to a human brain.
And I think also they actually pay attention to detail, and they give him a bullet to actually hold, not a round with the casing on it. So she knows that has come out of a bullet, and it's not necessarily, I mean, I don't know. She could probably justify it some other way, but at the same time, she's probably seeing it. That adds to like her skepticism, or not her skepticism, but her awe at what he's telling her, because he flat out tells her what happened, that he prayed to his brother and his angel came flying down and paused time.
He says something like that. I can't remember. She says something, her theory, and then he's like, well, that would probably make more sense than I prayed to my angelic brother who stopped time. And which I think is also like Lucifer does that, where he tells the truth in a very like, you're not going to believe this, but
he knows how it sounds, right? And he actually uses that to hide behind it in a way.
Absolutely.
So he shows her the bullet. He says, police work is quite fun.
And Chloe loses 5 years off her life because this is what her life is now.
Oh my god! I took a screenshot when she was like about to go look at. She said, you know when they were gonna leave to go look for the photographer at the party or whatever. I took this screenshot where she's like, "Are you coming?" And he's like, "Well, I thought this was." It's when he says the title line. He says, "I thought this was the part where you say, Lucifer, stay, good devil," and she like rolls her eyes to the ceiling.
like Like, hard enough that they could have stayed that way. Like, that's the eye roll that your mother warns you about.
I mean, oh my god, it's perfectly encapsulated season 1 Chloe, just
Yes.
her, "Oh my god, my life is so irritating right now," kinda
Yeah.
energy. But yeah, so next they go to Chloe sitting with Trixie, and she's about to show her Hot Tub High School, and she's trying to explain it to her, and oh my god, this was so cute. Trixie's
They
like,
have such a good mother and daughter relationship. Like,
I
I
know.
love their relationship. It makes me happy because, I find that sometimes those, like, parental relationships in TV shows do not necessarily ring
Mhm.
true, but
Yeah,
in this case, and I think it's partly because, like, Scarlett is the best. Like, I just love Trixie so much. She's so great
yeah.
that she totally sells it. And Chloe really is, like, I mean, of all the awkward conversations you have to have with your child, mommy did some silly things.
But I love when she says, "This isn't even in HD."
Yeah. Trixie already knows, honey. You live in internet age.
So good.
And I love Trixie doing her, like, the funniest part was when
Oh,
you
yeah,
ate
when
too
she
much
puked in
cake
the
and puked in the guy's hair, and then you think it's over, and then no, bleh. They're so cute. I love them so much.
And I was kind of thinking about, like, what she would have thought about the nude scene, and I kind of thought, well, I mean, she lives with her, that's her mom. She probably didn't think anything of it because she's probably seen her like that, at home or whatever, so it's just nothing to her. So,
Yeah. Also, I mean, it's just I don't think it was like I think it's supposed to be like, you know, some like a stupid kind of like American Pie type movie,
yeah, yeah,
like it's not like her mom was doing like hardcore porn
yeah.
in the hot
I mean,
tub.
she thought the movie was funny, so, I mean,
Exactly.
obviously it was a comedy, so.
Yeah.
Next, they go to Linda's office, and Linda and Lucifer have obviously just had sex on her pull-out couch in her office. Oh my god,
So
ew.
handy, guys. Like just
But she's talking about, "Oh, the devil did a good deed today," and he, like, talks about how he finds it exhilarating not to be in control for once, to not know what's coming next, and so, yeah, we get some insight into what is drawing him to Chloe.
yeah. Which is such a big deal because it really is like if you know everything
Yeah,
about how people are going to interact with you based on previous evidence and the fact that they are gonna, it's gonna be telling your desires and blah blah, and then suddenly you don't have that. It would be exciting.
yeah, if there's one opinion that I came to form over the course of watching the show, other than the fact that immortals are jerks, it's that it must be very boring.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
would not wanna live forever. No
no,
thanks.
like at some point, just you'd be like, I've done all the
Everything.
things, and this is
This is
just
never gonna end. Oh my god. Torment.
there's a sorry, I'm going to go literary for a second here, but the in T.S. Eliot's poem The Wasteland, there's an epigraph at the very beginning, and I can't remember, it's in Greek, but basically the translation is something like they went to the oracle at Kumai and asked her, "What do you want?" And she said, "I want to die." And it's because she was cursed with immortal life, but not immortal youth. And ever since I read that, I'm like, yeah, like if you're just alive forever and nothing changes and you're not going to die and there isn't like the possibility of death in your future, then what's the point of anything? You
Yeah.
just get tired. Yeah. Dark. Sorry.
It's gonna get dark anyway.
It's true.
Especially going into this next one because
Exactly.
Chloe goes to see Jimmy Barnes, and she's like, the nurse is telling her that he's heavily medicated and he probably can't string any words together, which, I mean, the last time we saw him, he was just screaming because he saw Lucifer's face, and we've seen how the preacher reacted, but Jimmy had an even worse reaction, right? He's basically unresponsive. He's just sitting there. He's not responding to her until she asks what happened with Lucifer. And then that provokes a response out of him. And he's like freaking out. He's like screaming at her. He's the devil. He's banging his head bloody against the door and everything, and until the guys come in and subdue him. But yeah, that brings Chloe another step further in her journey to dealing with what he keeps telling her, that I'm the devil.
Which, I mean, too, for the audience, we've just watched him be funny and clever and
Mhm,
bad
mhm.
puns and talented and playing his piano and all of like handsome, all of these things for the
Charming.
last 40 minutes or whatever. And then there's the reminder, like, oh, that's
He's
because
the actual devil.
yeah, we forgot for like a second that there's a whole other side here that has the scary face, and that when people see the scary face, they go
Crazy.
crazy and try and beat their heads open against the glass. So yeah, it's a nice kind of like I was going to say subtle. It's not subtle, but it's a nice reminder that we've let ourselves be lulled by
Yeah,
him
yeah.
too. And can we trust that?
Okay, that about wraps up the episode breakdown. So we're gonna do a quick. We're gonna do this going forward, but there's not too much to mention in this one. LuciTunes. In the beginning, there's a Lux scene where they're playing a song called Valkyrie, which I really like. That was in my rotation for a long time on my playlist for Lucifer. I really like that song. And then when Lucifer's playing the piano in Lux, he's playing King of Pain by the Police.
Yeah.
So all right, the good, the bad, and the crispy. My good. I love the scenes between Chloe and Lucifer at the scene of the accident. I like the way Lucifer moves his head when he says yes. It's just little details. It's just the way his mannerisms. I really like this about season one Lucifer. He's just so snarky and like he's got so much attitude, and I love that. So
Yeah.
that's my good.
My good is basically anytime Trixie and Lucifer are in the same place at the same time. But in this particularly, just the way she's so excited to see him, and he's so like, ew, it's sticky. And yet he's like, she's so adorable, and like even he can't completely
He's warming up to her.
yeah, I mean, he still thinks she's plays like a puppy, but that's fine. It's and she just the fact that she is so taken with him and just thinks he's so, like she kind of sees the him that I think even he doesn't really see.
Yeah, yeah. You're cool.
He's like, "What? Yeah, am I? What? Yes, I
Because with adults, he's just like, of course I'm cool. But with her,
Yeah,
he's just like, what? It's probably because he expects children to just be scared of him because he's a monster, right? So
yeah. Not Trixie. Trixie likes monsters.
she does. Okay, bad. I thought the detail where they put into the case about Josh staging a suicide with a gunshot to the head kind of stretched believability for me there, because I could see him escalating from like the slap that they caught him doing, and then this running him off the road thing, like that being like the worst thing. But then they put in this whole thing where like somebody overdosed and he got that photo, and somebody shot themselves in the head and he got that photo, and it's just I don't know.
Just straight up serial killer at this point.
I know. So I kind of thought that like, oh, if they like thought that he had actually shot someone to stage a suicide, then or do you think that's what they were saying? Was that he actually shot the guy and pretended that he got a suicide shot?
Yeah,
I just felt like they glazed that over that a little too
yeah.
quickly. I feel like if that was true, then they would have been like, oh my god, we need to go investigate this one too because this is serious.
Yeah, there would have been many cases, not just this one.
Yeah. So that's my little bad dart.
My little bad is sort of similar in that I'm sorry, I am, but like I trained as an actor, and I really found it hard to like believe Josh's acting. Like I don't know how much of it was like writing or directing or what, but it was just like it was too over the top for me.
Mm.
It wasn't nuanced enough. Like if somebody was talking to me in that way, I would be like, yeah, so you're the murderer, like what? And then the other thing that I don't know if it's bad, but it's like a little bit weird is this is a place where, knowing what I know about what they eventually decide about the lore, it doesn't really add up, because when Lucifer confronts or has the two men confront each other, he
Mhm.
says, you should be punished when you die, but that won't happen, and it's kind of my fault, implying that
Nobody's being
nobody's getting
punished. Yeah.
punished, which later, like, this completely gets dropped as a concept later. Later, we're sort of given to believe that hell just keeps on going. Like,
And it's kind of contradictory too, because he cares so much about punishment in this little case, but he doesn't care that nobody's being punished
yeah,
around the entire world.
yeah. And
It's
so
a
I feel
little,
like, again, because it's like there's a couple of little things in these early episodes where they were still, I think, figuring it out. And then later they were like, ooh, no, let's just let's just push that under the rug.
I think later they basically insinuate that hell is still running with like demons and stuff.
Exactly.
He's just not there to control them or anything. So
Yeah,
it's like hell in hell. All hell is
exactly.
breaking loose in hell.
It's less, I mean, later it's less about the people because they're all locked in their hell loops. They don't,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
don't even, they're not even, most of them aren't even aware that they're in hell, right?
yeah,
But the demons are the ones that start to get all antsy and there's nobody there watching them.
yeah,
But I think that is lore that had not been decided upon yet.
yeah.
So that was a little, because now, having watched it a few times, now I'm like, oh yeah, no, that one doesn't. That's like they discarded that one later.
So my crispy or my extra good is just when Lucifer throws a doll for her. It's just that the thump that it makes, and then his line after, "Is this too advanced for her?" It's perfect. I love it. Oh my god, just the way he treats her like a dog, or like you said, a puppy.
Like
It's
in such
just
a, and he's not doing it to be mean. It's
he expects
literally
it
like
to
he's like,
work.
this is how the small things play, right? Like this is what you do. It's like that one person who's like never been around kids
Yeah,
before and they
yeah.
have no idea
How they work.
how they work. And like if you give them a baby to hold, they're just like, ah. my crispy. So okay, look, Trixie is gonna get mentioned a lot because I
Yeah.
just love the character. I love the kid. I love the way she acts as a foil for different characters by having these relationships. And I really, I mean, I love that moment at the end with her and her mom when, like Chloe is obviously very nervous
Concerned.
and concerned and like, oh my God, I can't believe my 19, the things I did when I was 19 are coming back to haunt me. And Trixie's just like, bleh. and she's just so adorable. Like with her little, she doesn't have teeth right now, and she's just little ponytails. She's so cute.
Her
And she
line delivery is so perfect.
perfect. And not like, because it would be really easy to overdo it. Like
Yeah.
if she were not as good as she is, it would be unbearable, but she is that good. And so it comes across totally genuine and it just is so heartwarming.
Yeah,
And
like
then to
this
have
little
that contrast between her and, because it's actually Trixie who's like, I hope the person who shot you, because she bumps her mom's injury,
Yeah,
has been punished. And that's what sends Chloe to go see Jimmy
yeah,
Barnes. And so the
yeah.
contrast between laughing on the couch over your booby scene with your kid to like
Going to go track
dude
down what happened to this dude.
bashing his head against the glass and screaming and like obviously crazy is so good. Like
Yeah.
it's such emotional whiplash for the viewer. And I love that because it's totally believable.
Okay, so each week we're going to have what's called a LuciQuiz. You can check out our Instagram page for a bonus question on Sunday. The way that works is I'm going to ask 5 questions of increasing difficulty about the episode we just discussed, and you're going to take the quiz along with Tara. You have 5 seconds to come up with the answer. Okay, question 1. What nickname does Lucifer give to Nick Hoffmeister?
Dung beetle.
Yeah, good job. She answered that really fast. Question 2. What kind of fruit freezes in midair when Amenadiel comes to Lucifer's penthouse?
An apple.
Yeah, good job. Okay, question 3. Getting harder. What color is Chloe's leather jacket in this episode?
brown.
No, it's red.
I almost said red, and then I was like, was it? No, yeah.
Chloe does own a lot of leather jackets, apparently.
She really does. That girl's wardrobe.
I know, her wardrobe gets a little out of control later in the season. She's wearing some things later. I'm just like, what is she wearing as a police officer in this episode?
And how did she afford that?
I know.
That didn't come from TJ Maxx, okay?
Okay, question 4. Molly McDowell, or Trixie's doll, is a ballerina by day and a what by night?
Oh, it's like a ninja scientist?
Ninja chemist.
Yeah. It's a science.
It's okay. You got half of it right. Give you half a point.
When I was rewatching, I knew that was going to be a question, and I should have written a note.
I've actually written up the breakdown notes, and then I've gone and taken things out so that you can't read them.
Nice.
Okay, question 5. What is Chloe wearing on her head on the DVD cover for Hot Tub High School?
Gosh. Sunglasses?
She's wearing a graduation cap.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
I can't remember what the tagline for it was. Something about how will you graduate or something like that.
Yeah. I admit I didn't look at the cover that closely. That's a good hard question.
Yes. Okay, yeah, so
Yay.
check out our Instagram for the bonus question on Sunday. But yeah, any last thoughts? I like this one. It's a good episode.
It's funny because I was thinking this as I usually I end up, because once I get into it, then I'm like, I just have to watch them all and they run together. And then I forget that some of these episodes happen so early,
Yeah.
And so I always forget that this episode is like
Only the second one.
It's only the second one. And it just makes me happy because I know the good things are ahead. Episode 4, for example.
We'll get there. We're almost there. We're on episode 3 next.
Yeah.
But yeah, so if you're enjoying Rom-Com Detectives, be sure to leave us a rating or a review on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. For our Spotify listeners, leave us a comment for our question of the week. I didn't come up with a question of the week. What should we ask?
The question of the week is, what is Crystal's question of the week? It'll be the question of the week next time.
For our Spotify listeners, you can leave us a comment for our question of the week and tell us which of Lucifer's outfit in this episode was your favorite. If you'd like to join additional conversations about Lucifer, you can visit the Lucifer subreddit at reddit.com/r/Lucifer. To contact me and Tara, you can email us at hosts@romcomdetectives.com. You can follow us on Instagram or Threads at romcomdetectives. And actually, I just created a Blue Sky account too, so that's Rom-Com Detectives too. So, or you can leave us a voicemail or text message. And I just want to say it would be nice to get one that's not spam because I've been getting so many. Your Google business visibility.
I mean, to be fair, that's like my actual phone too. So I'm like,
oh my god, yeah. So you can leave us a voicemail or text message at 1-650-733-XOXO or 9696. This episode of Rom-Com Detectives was recorded on March 27, 2025. Rom-Com Detectives Lucifer Unit is co-hosted by Crystal Watanabe and Tara Avery and is produced by Pico's House. Thanks for listening. See you guys next time.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks. Bye.